Ahead tonight, a delay in the Kofi Goodman murder trial will tell you what will happen now.
Also ahead, big plans to make a quaint Bahamian-owned night spot a big international attraction.
And find out where police found this huge stash of drugs. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
The Bahamas playing a pivotal role at the United Nations General Assembly in New York this week. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keisha Adderley.
And I'm Kendino Knowles. Well, today, regional foreign ministers met to discuss a number of issues, and high on their agenda was the controversial matter involving the Bahamas and a Cuban group. Just hours ago, CARICOM counterparts issued a statement saying they deplore the threatened economic boycott of the country and attacks on the Bahamas by foreign interest groups. Our Opal Roach is the only reporter from the Bahamas covering this week's UN meetings. She has more tonight on the discussions in New York.
A big day for the Bahamas at the United Nations as the Caribbean community lends its support on a very touchy issue. It's been in the headlines now for weeks. Anti-Bahamas protests all aimed at crushing our economy. The democracy movement in Florida led the demonstrations in hopes of pulling away our tourist dollars. The group took the action claiming the mistreatment of Cuban detainees at the Carmichael Road Detention Center, and it's not too pleased with the length of time it takes for deportation or to be granted political asylum. Now, those abuse claims have been investigated and a hearing will begin soon. But on Friday, the regional community spoke with one voice at the United Nations, bashing that group for its attempts at crippling our #1 industry. Leading that group is Foreign Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Winston Dookeran.
We decided to make a statement in support of the Bahamian authorities against the threats to its economic interests that is happening by certain interest groups based in Miami. So we endorsed the support to the Bahamian authorities on this matter, and we also support the efforts of Bahamas to ensure that within the law that they provide the necessary mechanisms for proper immigration procedures. Strongly support the efforts of Bahamas to put some order to this matter.
Now, indeed, this was welcomed news for Foreign Affairs Minister the Honorable Fred Mitchell, who has faced much criticism.
Well, I'm very pleased that my colleague foreign ministers and all of the CARICOM countries were unanimous, including Haiti, at the efforts toward the work we've done with this issue of immigration, which is quite vexing. I've always said that this business of threatening our economic interest in South Florida is not a friendly act. And I've indicated that people ought to be reminded of the large amount of business that we do in Florida, $1 billion spent of monies in Florida by Bahamians. And so I'm happy for this endorsement by CARICOM.
This step comes ahead of the Prime Minister's address to the United Nations on Saturday. Minister Mitchell gave this preview.
Well, the Prime Minister is going to give the country's position on a whole range of matters, including the protection of our financial services, a need for global governance on that against unilateral measures, to talk about the migration issues, to sensitize people to what is going on in terms of migration in the Bahamas, and also to call for the work to help support young people and to find employment.
Now, as I told you before, Prime Minister Christie will address the United Nations General Assembly tomorrow, and that address will be carried live on TV 13 at 3 p.m. In New York, I'm Opal Roach, ZNS Network News.
A major drug bust landing 4 male suspects in police custody as authorities crack down on the illicit drug trade. Charisma Robinson tells us about the latest drug bust on Exuma.
Sacks upon sacks of suspected marijuana were offloaded onto 3 vans by Drug Enforcement and U.S. Coast Guard officers this afternoon at Odyssey Aviation. Police made the major drug bust in Farmers Key, Exuma around 7:30 Friday morning.
We were able to discover a large quantity of marijuana. We are very early in our investigations at this time, but we are able to tell you that our estimated weight is about somewhere 2,300 pounds. And that would bring our street value to $2.3 million.
Officer in charge of the Drug Enforcement Unit, Superintendent Samuel Butler, believes the drugs were destined for New Providence. This is now the 4th major seizure in recent weeks. Superintendent Butler could not say, though, if Friday's seizure is connected to the discovery of more than 20,000 marijuana plants off Gladstone Road last Tuesday.
We know from intelligence there's a network of BAHAMAS who are working together, sharing their resources, and so we still wait to unveil what it is they were doing for this particular occasion. We will note, in reason, this is coming off the heel of late August, another major seizure, early, mid-September, another major seizure, and all of you have already covered the major seizure here in New Providence with the cultivation of marijuana. Now another major seizure today, and we look forward to others.
He had these words for the perpetrators.
Drug enforcement, again, will spare no effort. We are on the walls. We're not coming off our walls. We will find you. We will bring you to justice. And when we actually look at a major seizure like this, we always think in terms of prevention. These types of drugs reaching our street, reaching the local populace of the Bahamas, and destroying some young boy, some young girl. So that really makes us happy to know that our work is not in vain.
Now, 4 men were arrested in the Exumas in connection with this matter. They were expected to be flown into the capital for questioning. Charisma Robinson, ZNS Network News.
The sentencing hearing for convicted murderer Kofi Goodman was delayed today due to a number of issues.
38-year-old Goodman is facing the death penalty after a jury found him guilty last month of killing 11-year-old Marco Archer. Foreign Carey is on the case.
Convicted murderer Kofi Goodman arrived at court Friday expecting to be sentenced for killing 11-year-old Marco Archer back in September of 2011. But the 38-year-old will have to wait a bit longer to learn his fate, as the court was unable to proceed because his psychiatric and probation reports were not ready. As a result, prosecutors asked the court to adjourn the matter to October 18th. But that did not sit well with Goodman's attorney, Ferguson, who vigorously opposed the adjournment and asked the court to proceed anyway, stating that Goodman wanted to begin the process of appealing against his conviction and sentence. However, Justice Bernard Turner pointed out that Goodman had personally requested the psychiatric report, and he asked Goodman if he was in agreement with the move, prompting Goodman to indicate that he wanted to abandon the psychiatric report. Ferguson then said it is, quote, a disgrace that the 2 reports were not ready. He informed the court that probation officers did not reportedly visit Goodman until 3 weeks ago, while he said the psychiatric personnel did not visit Goodman until last week. Ferguson also suggested that there is no evidence to support the prosecution's death penalty application, noting that the evidence during the trial did not prove that Marco Archer died or that the body that was found was in fact the 11-year-old missing child. Ferguson also informed the court that a juror who claimed to be a relative of Marco Archer reportedly made a comment to Goodman following his conviction. He then suggested that the matter was, quote, a political show trial staged for the benefit of the Minister of National Security. Meantime, Ferguson had this to say about the sentencing delay.
We feel, as far as the defense is concerned, that the government is deliberately delaying the sentencing of Mr. Goodman because they want to prevent him from getting onto the Court of Appeal, because they don't want the Court of Appeal to see all of the nonsense that was permitted to happen in this trial. And we are against that. We want this man to be sentenced so that his appeal can be lodged.
In the end, Justice Bernard Turner was not swayed. He still adjourned the matter to October 18th. At that time, it is hoped that the probation report and the psychiatric report will be ready so that Kofi Goodman can be sentenced. Erin Carey, ZNS Network News.
37-year-old Donald Lightbourne was remanded to prison today after being formally arraigned in the magistrate's court on armed robbery charges. Court papers show that on Tuesday, Lightbourne reportedly robbed an employee of the Nassau pawn shop of $470,000 worth of assorted jewelry while armed with a putty knife. Lightbourne is also accused of dishonestly receiving the jewelry. He was not required to enter a plea to the charge. Bail was denied and he was remanded to prison. He returns to court in February of next year for a trial date.
The opening of a new tourist destination is in the works, and it's expected to give present hotel managers a greater presence in the tourism industry. It'll also mean the opportunity to become owners instead of employees. Our Genea Noel-Ferguson explains.
The Bahamas Hotel Managerial Association is pursuing a new business venture that they claim will change the way tourism is viewed in the country. President Obie-Ferguson announced Friday that they've entered into discussions with the owners of Nirvana Club on Love Beach to create a new tourist attraction that will be owned and operated by Bahamians.
The tourists, when they walk in there, they can see the Bahamas, they can feel the Bahamas. They can observe the culture of the Bahamas, because without a culture in a country, you don't have a country. So I think it's going to be good. The scenery is good down there. It's right on the beach, and we feel that we're not benefiting as a country, as a people.
Ferguson says that it will take about 3 months of planning to get them where they want to be to start preparation for Nirvana Beach. He says they plan to offer at least 1 cultural show in the day and 2 in the evenings. This venture, he says, will also give more Bahamians a piece of the economic pie.
I think it'll be profitable because management is everything. If you have good management, good planning, provide a good product, the food that you provide, the service that you provide, people will go anywhere as long as you have good food, good service, good cultural experience. I think they would come, and we have the management skills in the union to do the job.
Ferguson revealed that they will be requesting financial assistance from the government to help to fund this project. He noted that the government has in the past assisted with other tourism-based projects. Meanwhile, Labor Minister Shane Gibson, who was present for the announcement, welcomed this new idea.
Now in the country, I believe that we need to put more of an effort into making sure that we're able to help tourists come into the country to identify what our culture is all about. We need to do more for the young kids coming up to really identify more Bahamian culture rather than with so many other cultures. And so when you look at the association trying to create ownership for its members, I think that is something that we can all join in, and that's something I support unequivocally.
The association president supports taking advantage of the various tourism groups entering the country, which he believes will provide Bahamian entertainers more outlets to share their talents.
Advantage, we're spending millions and millions of dollars to bring the tourists here. My God, we can't let them stay on the boat, because on the boat, they don't really help the Bahamas. We want them to come in, we want them to enjoy and see what the culture of the Bahamas is all about. We don't want a cultural show on the ship. We want a cultural show in the Bahamas, on the mainland, where the Bahamians can benefit. So I'm very, very pleased.
Genea Noel-Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
The Bahamas Managerial Hotel Association held its annual general meeting today at the Sheraton Nassau Beach Resort, Cable Beach, to map out new plans for the organization's future and discuss various issues affecting its members. Minister of Labor Shane Gibson applauded the organization for its efforts over the last 40 years, noting its many accomplishments, and encouraged unions to work together. He informed the leaders that when the government reconvenes from its summer recess, it plans to enter into the second and third readings and passage of the tripartite consultation bill, which will institutionalize social dialogue on a national level.
That is extremely important because many times lots of trade union leaders confine themselves to a box, into just representing the views of the immediate organization of workers that they represent. When there are many more issues on a national and international level, and once you have an opportunity to positively impact it, you will be surprised to know how much more easy it will be in representing your members on a local level. because many of the decisions we make on a local levels have national and international implications. And so we want to make sure that we create this legislation where we are mandated to have social dialogue with all of the social partners.
Well, still ahead tonight, junior Junkanooers receiving their just rewards.
And coming up in sports, Atlanta's resort preparing to host the Miami Heat. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.